General Motors is adding more cars to its recall heap. This time, about 200,000 older Chevrolet Aveo cars.
Remember the trucks nobody wanted posters of? The ones that vanished from your memory? Those weren't just bad buys. They were bold experiments. Some ahead of their time, some total disasters. And yet, each one carried a hidden lesson about strength, style, and survival. If you ever rode in one, they weren't ordinary. Why did Detroit gamble so wildly in these years? Why do collectors still pretend they don't exist? And what if the truck you passed up on Craigslist is about to be worth more than you think? Chevrolet Colorado and its twin. When you think about domestic pickups, you picture big V8 engines, heavy-duty towing, and long-standing nameplates. Yet tucked quietly in the shadows was General Motors Corporation's first attempt at redefining the midsize truck segment in the early 2000s. The Chevrolet Colorado and the General Motors Corporation Canyon arrived as successors to the compact S10, and they tried to carve out their own path. What set them apart, and what still makes them the butt of garage jokes, was their unusual inline 5-cylinder engine. Yes, an inline 5, not a 6, not a 4, but a strange compromise that promised smoothness and power, but usually delivered little more than odd exhaust noise and puzzled looks from the neighbors. The design of these trucks was functional, but never inspiring. Interiors were dominated by hard plastics that rattled over bumps, and the styling blended into traffic without commanding presence. Buyers looking for excitement simply walked past them on the lot. Yet for the owner who wanted a simple, dependable hauler, these trucks did their jobs. The frames were tougher than they looked, the drivetrains could take a surprising beating, and maintenance costs stayed low. They were not glamorous, but they were honest. You could throw tools in the bed, back it into a job site, or hook a small trailer without worrying that you had wasted money. Because of that reputation, the Colorado and Canyon became working-class background players rather than collector favorites. No one brings them up at shows, and no kid grows up with a poster of an inline 5 Chevrolet on his wall. They were steady, they were unflashy, and now they are forgotten. But their quiet durability makes them hidden bargains today. Slide your seatbelt a little tighter, because the next entry trades invisible reliability for disguised strength, showing how one badge fooled everyone. Chevrolet Silverado 1500 Heavy Duty. Hidden in plain sight, this truck confused shoppers and even seasoned gearheads. At first glance, the Chevrolet Silverado 1500 Heavy Duty looked like any other half-ton rig. The badge said 1500, the body resembled the regular Silverado lineup, and most buyers assumed it was just another family pickup. But beneath the skin sat a frame and suspension package nearly identical to a 3/4-ton Silverado, paired with the muscular 6.0-liter Vortec V8. It was, in truth, a heavy-duty workhorse masquerading as an everyday half-ton. The clever disguise meant many overlooked its true capabilities. The Silverado 1500 Heavy Duty could pull trailers, haul campers, and move equipment with an ease that left owners shaking their heads. It carried 4 full-size doors, giving it true crew cab practicality, and still offered the rugged dependability for which General Motors Corporation trucks are known. It was not built for speed or show, but it would drag a boat up a mountain road without breaking stride. Of course, style was never its calling card. The interior, while roomy, was a festival of early 2000s plastics. The ride leaned toward stiff, and fuel economy was nothing to brag about. Collectors rarely line up for them, and enthusiasts often overlook them in favor of flashier heavy-duty models. Yet for anyone who needs a reliable work partner that still looks like a regular pickup, the 1500 Heavy Duty remains an underrated gem. This odd blend of half-ton badging and 3/4-ton muscle explains why so few talk about it today. It was too tough to be a family cruiser, too ordinary to be a collector's dream, but just right for the man who values strength over status. And if that seems like a wolf in sheep's clothing, wait until you see the next truck, a rig that skipped subtlety and went straight for blacked-out attitude. We're just getting warmed up, and there are still plenty of strange, forgotten pickups left on this list. If you're enjoying the ride so far, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Which truck from the countdown has caught you off guard? Ford F-150 Nite package. Every so often, a truck comes along that is remembered less for brute force and more for style that struck a chord. The Ford F-150 Nite package is one of those rare creatures. Rolling out in the early 1990s, this trim took a standard F-150 and turned it into a shadow on wheels. Finished only in black, accented by color stripes running along the body, and often matched with blacked-out trim, it was Ford's way of offering muscle car attitude in pickup form. The Nite package was available with the trusted 5.0-liter V8 or the stronger 5.8-liter V8, making it more than just a cosmetic trick. It gave the driver a dose of presence every time he pulled onto Main Street. The interiors carried all the simplicity of the early 90s Ford cabins, durable, straightforward, and built with a no-nonsense approach. These trucks were not luxurious, yet that was never the point. Buyers wanted something that looked bold while still towing the boat, hauling tools, or just cruising through town with a stance that said, "This truck is mine." Today, spotting a true Nite package is tough. Many were worked to death. Some lost their unique graphics, and others simply blended back into the used market where few noticed what they were. Collectors rarely put them on a pedestal, but among enthusiasts who grew up in that decade, the Nite package still sparks memories. It represented a time when appearance packages were meant to make you feel good, without asking you to spend outrageous money. Practical, reliable, and undeniably cool, it carried just enough swagger to separate it from the crowd. Now, from a truck that embraced the darkness, we steer toward one that embraced technology, an experiment in steering systems that still feels futuristic decades later. GMC Sierra Denali C3. Innovation often shows up in unexpected places, and at the turn of the millennium, it arrived in a full-size pickup. The General Motors Corporation Sierra Denali C3 looked like an upscale trim with leather seats, premium sound, and the polished image of a luxury truck. But underneath that refined surface lived one of the strangest and most advanced systems ever installed in a domestic pickup, quadristeer. This technology allowed the rear wheels to turn in conjunction with the fronts, shrinking the turning radius of a long crew cab truck down to something closer to a compact sedan. Imagine swinging a 20-foot rig into a parking space with ease, or backing a heavy trailer straight into a narrow driveway without sweating bullets. Quadristeer made that possible. The system worked brilliantly, but it came at a painful cost. The Denali C3 already carried a hefty sticker price, and adding quadristeer pushed it into territory normally reserved for luxury sedans. Maintenance was also complicated. When things went wrong, parts were expensive, and many mechanics had never seen the system before. Owners loved the maneuverability, but hated the repair bills, and the buying public never caught on. Production numbers stayed low, and by the time the early 2000s ended, quadristeer disappeared quietly from the lineup. Today, finding a Sierra Denali C3 with functioning quadristeer is rare. Collectors may raise an eyebrow, but values have not skyrocketed. These trucks remain curiosities, machines that demonstrated forward thinking, yet never captured the mainstream market. For those who own one, the technology is still impressive and genuinely useful, particularly for anyone who tows or navigates tight urban streets with a full-size truck. Moving from futuristic steering to roofless freedom, the next entry throws caution aside and reminds us that sometimes a pickup can be part workhorse and part convertible cruiser. Dodge Dakota Convertible. Every automotive era has its experiments, and few were bolder than when Dodge decided to chop the roof off a pickup. The Dodge Dakota Convertible, built from 1989 through 1991, was a mid-sized truck that doubled as a sun-chasing cruiser. At a time when the American pickup was shifting toward bigger frames and heavier work duties, Dodge dared to imagine a machine that could haul a load to the job site during the week and roll through downtown with the top down on Friday night. Built with help from American Sunroof Corporation, the Dakota Convertible featured a fabric fold-down roof and removable rails for true open-air freedom. Engines ranged from thrifty 4-cylinders to the dependable 3.9-liter V6, offering just enough muscle to haul gear or tow light loads with summer style. Practicality, however, was never its strong suit. The soft top was notorious for leaks, insulation was nearly non-existent, and long highway drives left passengers with wind-blown hair and ringing ears. Still, it had character. It stood apart in a world of square-bodied work rigs, and it remains one of the quirkiest vehicles Dodge ever sold. Collectors today view the Dakota Convertible as a charming oddity. Prices remain low because demand is limited, yet for anyone seeking a truck that doubles as a conversation starter, it delivers. And speaking of oddities, the next chapter takes us into a Ford that puzzled owners with 7-lug wheels and an identity crisis. Ford F-250 light duty. Truck history is full of confusing experiments, but few are as puzzling as the Ford F-250 light duty released in 1997. At a glance, most buyers thought they were staring at an F-150 because it wore the same rounded body style introduced that year. Yet the badge on the fender clearly read F-250, and under the skin things became even stranger. Ford engineers decided to give this model a unique 7-lug wheel pattern, something virtually no other domestic pickup had ever used. Not 6 lugs, not 8 lugs, but 7. It was the kind of decision that made mechanics scratch their heads and owners wonder why their wheels could not be swapped with anything else in the neighborhood. Ford built the light-duty F-250 as a middle ground, tougher than an F-150, but shy of the Super Duty line debuting in 1999. With 4.6 or 5.4 Triton 5/8s, it offered enough muscle for towing or hauling without stepping into full heavy-duty territory. On the road, it did its job without complaint, but the odd 7-lug setup doomed it in the long run. Replacement wheels were scarce, aftermarket options nearly non-existent, and confusion reigned at tire shops across America. Collectors rarely talk about it today, and many examples have faded into obscurity. Still, it remains a fascinating footnote in Ford's long pickup legacy. From a truck remembered for strange wheels, we now shift to one remembered for chasing street performance, Chevrolet's answer to the muscle truck craze. Chevrolet S10 during the 2.8-liter V6 era. Compact pickups became a true American staple in the 1980s, and Chevrolet entered the game with the S10 in 1982. Marketed as a small and efficient truck that could fit in tight city streets yet still handle light-duty work, it quickly found its way into countless driveways. The engine that defined this period, however, was the 2.8-liter V6. On paper, it seemed like the perfect compromise, offering more torque than a 4-cylinder but less thirst than a big V8. In practice, though, it left many owners wanting. With horsepower figures that barely broke into the triple digits and towing numbers that felt underwhelming, the 2.8-liter earned a reputation for being adequate at best and wheezy at worst. The S10 stood out as the first American-built compact pickup, a counter to Japanese rivals flooding the market. Its boxy styling, simple interiors, and capable bed made it practical. In the 1980s, many young drivers learned stick shift skills or cruised with friends in these dependable little trucks. Durability was a mixed bag. Some S10s soldiered on for decades, while others suffered from rust or tired drivetrains far too soon. Collectors today rarely look twice at the early 2.8-era trucks, preferring the later 4.3-liter V6 or the high-performance Cyclone and Sonoma GT versions. But the truth remains. Without the humble 2.8-liter models, the S10 name might never have become iconic. From a compact pickup that struggled with power, we now move toward one that had strength, but stumbled with radical styling choices. Dodge Ram 1500. Regular cab, short bed. Sometimes the simplest formula creates the most enjoyable truck, and few examples prove that better than the early 2000s Dodge Ram 1500 in its most basic form. With a regular cab, a short bed, and a manual transmission, this configuration was as pure as a pickup could be. No extended cab clutter, no oversized bed weighing it down, just a clean, balanced truck with room for 2 passengers and a purpose-built box out back. Dodge redesigned the Ram in 2002, giving it bold styling that looked muscular and aggressive compared to its competition, and the short-bed regular cab version carried that swagger better than any other. Choices included the 3.7-liter 5.6, 4.7, and 5.9 Magnum V8s, and the debut 5.7 Hemi in 2003. The crown jewel was the 5-speed manual, giving short-bed Rams a raw, lively driving feel, unmatched by automatic-equipped extended cabs. Unfortunately, this configuration appealed to a narrow slice of the market. Most buyers wanted more space for family or work gear, and the convenience of an automatic was hard to ignore. As a result, relatively few were built, and even fewer survived without rust, hard use, or neglect. Collectors today barely mention them, yet for enthusiasts who appreciate simple, honest trucks, they remain a hidden gem. From minimalism done right we now swing toward a truck that represented excess in every sense. Chevrolet's wild take on luxury and sport in the late 90s. Ford F-150 Freewheeling and flare-side short beds. Few trucks capture the late 1970s spirit of bold graphics and free-spirited design like the Ford F-150 Freewheeling editions. Introduced in 1978 and running through 1979, these packages transformed the otherwise straightforward F-100 into rolling statements of color and culture. With vibrant stripes in oranges, yellows, and reds that swept along the body panels, the freewheeling trucks looked more at home at a beach party or rock concert than a worksite. Add in a flare-side short bed with its distinct step-side rear fenders, and you had a truck that practically shouted individuality. Buyers chose between the sturdy 300 inline-six or V8s like the 4.9 and 5.8 Windsor. Performance was steady, not thrilling, but freewheeling buyers cared about lifestyle. Bright graphics, music blaring, and even grocery runs felt like rolling adventures in style. Production numbers were never huge, and as the 1980s arrived, the fad of bold graphics quickly gave way to more conservative styling. That left many freewheeling F-100s forgotten in fields, rusting behind barns, or simply painted over by owners who wanted something more traditional. Today, surviving examples are prized not so much for raw capability, but for their unmistakable look. A clean flare-side short bed, with its factory stripes intact, is a snapshot of an era when trucks could be just as much about fun as function. From wild graphics and freewheeling attitude, we turn toward a truck that carried quiet strength but found itself ignored because of timing and market confusion. Jeep Comanche. Among all the compact pickups of the late 1980s, none carried the rugged DNA of a true off-roader quite like the Jeep Comanche. Built between 1987 and 1992, it was Jeep's bold attempt to merge the proven Cherokee platform with the utility of a pickup bed. The result was a truck that felt smaller and more agile than a Ford Ranger or a Chevrolet S10. Yet it had a toughness in its bones that came straight from Jeep's trail heritage. Buyers could get modest four-cylinder versions, but the crown jewel was always the legendary 4.0-liter inline-six engine. Borrowed from the Cherokee and Wagoneer, the motor delivered smooth torque and lasting durability. Many Comanches surpassed 200,000 miles, earning a near-unkillable reputation. With four-wheel drive, it tackled trails, mud, and rocks, while still working as a dependable daily driver with true Jeep utility. Yet despite its strengths, the Comanche never truly caught fire in the market. Sales lagged behind domestic rivals, partly because Jeep was a niche brand and partly because the company struggled with marketing. Buyers who wanted a Jeep often leaned toward the Cherokee or Wrangler, while those needing a truck stuck with the familiar Detroit options. By 1992, Chrysler quietly pulled the plug, leaving the Comanche as a one-generation experiment. Today, surviving Comanches are beloved by a small but passionate following. Clean examples with the 4.0-liter engine and four-wheel drive fetch attention from collectors who appreciate their rarity. They represent an oddball corner of Jeep history. A reminder that sometimes the best ideas arrive before the market is ready. From Jeep's forgotten workhorse, we now shift to a Chevrolet that blurred the line between muscle car and pickup in the early 90s. Chevrolet Avalanche. Few trucks divided opinion as sharply as the first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche. Released in 2002, it promised to be the Swiss Army knife of trucks, part pickup, part SUV, and part experiment. Built on the Chevrolet Suburban platform, it came with 4 doors, a covered bed, and the unique midgate system that allowed owners to fold the rear seats and extend cargo space into the cabin. On paper, it sounded like the ultimate blend of comfort and utility. The Avalanche carried V8 power, with the trusted 5.3-liter and the larger 8.1-liter options available. These engines gave it respectable towing capacity and highway strength, but the truck's size and weight made fuel economy painful. Styling was another sticking point. With its heavy plastic body cladding and odd proportions, the Avalanche looked unlike anything else on the road. Some buyers loved its futuristic shape, while others mocked it endlessly. Over time, the cladding faded and cracked, making many early trucks look older than they were. Despite its quirks, the Avalanche earned praise for versatility. Families liked the comfortable interior, contractors appreciated the flexible bed, and long-distance travelers enjoyed SUV-level comfort with pickup practicality. But sales never matched expectations. Buyers who wanted a true truck stuck with the Silverado, while those wanting luxury leaned toward the Suburban or Tahoe. The Avalanche sat awkwardly in the middle, too strange for traditional truck fans and too truck-like for SUV buyers. Today, early Avalanches are rarely celebrated. They're affordable on the used market, but they lack collector appeal. Yet in hindsight, the Avalanche was ahead of its time, foreshadowing the modern push for crossover utility in every segment. From a truck that tried to be everything at once, we now close with one that forgot what a truck should even be. You've now seen almost every truck on this list, and if this countdown opened your eyes to the forgotten side of America's pickups, don't stop here. Hit that subscribe button right now because we're just scratching the surface. More stories, more history, and more surprises are on the way, and you don't want to miss them. Lincoln Blackwood. Some trucks fade quietly into history, but the Lincoln Blackwood stands as one of the boldest and strangest experiments ever to roll out of Detroit. Built for a single model year in 2002, the Blackwood was Lincoln's attempt to fuse ultimate luxury with the hard-working pickup formula. On paper, the idea sounded promising. Take the proven Ford F-150 platform, dress it in Lincoln's finest materials, and market it as the first true luxury pickup. What arrived, however, was a vehicle so niche and mismatched that it became infamous almost immediately. The Blackwood skipped tradition with a power-lidded carpeted box wrapped in fake wood grain, more trunk than bed, fine for golf clubs, useless for gravel. Inside, Lincoln luxury reigned with leather and gadgets, while its 5.4-liter Triton V8 lagged behind normal Ford pickups. The real downfall was practicality. Traditional truck buyers saw it as useless, while luxury car buyers found the ride too rough compared to sedans or SUVs. Add in a staggering price tag well over $50,000 at the time, and the market turned its back almost instantly. Production ended after fewer than 4,000 units, sealing the Blackwood's fate as a spectacular flop. Yet today, the Lincoln Blackwood fascinates enthusiasts. It is rare, it is unapologetically strange, and it represents a turning point that paved the way for later luxury pickups like the Cadillac Escalade EXT, a failure in its own time, but a legend of miscalculation now. We've just taken a ride through the trucks history forgot, the ones nobody talks about but all of us should remember. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment and tell me which of these pickups shocked you the most. Hit like if you enjoyed the journey, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive. Together, we'll keep these hidden stories alive and bring back the grit, steel, and heart of America's forgotten trucks.